All right, let's call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Doing roll call, all members are present except for Councilman Lundin, who gave us a notice that he would not be here tonight for this meeting. Do we have any public comment? Come on up.
Yes, Mayor. I'm Dave England. I'm with the Isani Redbirds. I just was gonna bring it to attention that we're gonna have a game next month on May 20th. It'll be the Veterans Game. And I didn't know if you wanted to throw out the first pitch in the afternoon. Normally, we did it on a Friday night, but we'd had to move it because of the high school team.
Sure. So May 20th,
Yeah,
and
it's the game's at 2.
yeah, well, now I'll have to start practicing.
You have to
So,
loosen up. Give you a month to loosen up.
all right, well, that should be enough time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. And we can't, you don't have to throw it 60 if we shorten it up a little.
No, I have to throw it. I have
You
to
have to
throw
get
it the
up
full.
on there?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I won't be able to live with myself if I.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
That sounds good. I appreciate the invitation. I'll be
Yep.
glad to do that.
Yeah,
So,
we'll have the color guard and everything else out there that
Awesome.
day, so.
No, that should be great.
Yep,
So-
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
All right, bye-bye.
It's the veterans?
Yeah, it's the Poppy game that we call it the Poppy game. We play East Bethel and they have a ceremony for the veterans that have passed away in the last year or whatever that they have in their traveling trophy that we have.
No veterans want to throw the first pitch?
We have the mayor doing it. You know, I mean, you know. That's what it is, so. They're just happy to be there. So, have a good one, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? All right. Moving on to committee meeting items, we have E1, Rum River BMX Parking Agreement.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. So we have a proposal from Rum River BMX, the parking agreement specifically between the city and Rum River BMX for special events. It was established in 2018. In there, it's stated that it's supposed to be reviewed every 2 years. We kind of talked about it a little bit last fall, and they got us a proposal here last week to review it and maybe make some changes. So basically, the current agreement lays out 2 different event tiers. A Tier 1 event would be National or Gold Cup Series events. Those call for Rum River BMX to keep the first $8,000 in parking revenue, and after $8,000, the revenue is split 50-50 between the city and Rum River BMX. Tier 2 events cover district and state events, and any revenue is split 50-50 between the city and Rum River BMX. The original intent and purpose of the city collecting revenue from the parking pass sales was to have a way to repair the turf if necessary after events. And over the years, there really hasn't been any need to make any repairs after large events. So the proposal from Rum River BMX would be for them to take over issuing all the parking passes for their approved events, and then they would retain all of the revenue generated from the parking fees. And then with the money they've already paid in over the years, we would just have that kind of be a running total of what they've paid, and then if we have to make repairs, we would kind of make repairs until we've hit, I think it was like $4,000. I don't remember if I had the $4,188.25. And then after that time, we would have to establish what we want to do going forward from then, if we want to just invoice them whatever the cost was for any repairs or whatever. But that's basically, they would like to, since they've paid all that money, they want to be able to recoup that money since we haven't had to make any repairs, and that was the intent of the original agreement. So Tim from Rum River BMX is here tonight if you have any questions on any stuff from their end. But they came in and met with me and Finance Director Mike Becker, and we thought it was a good proposal. We didn't see anything wrong with it. So
I don't know what the thought process behind setting it up this way was in the beginning. I don't know if there's some history there that there was some issues at one time, but it looked like there's only been one minor issue since we started doing this, so was there a big reason why we started doing this in the first place, or?
Just to repair the sod.
Right, but I
There's
mean,
a lot of times it just gets rutted up. If they had big rain there,
yeah,
it could get rutted up pretty easily and then.
but we've only had, it, on the memo here or whatever it said, we've only had one minor issue
Right,
in
but
the,
you can't foresee
We didn't
that,
know,
that,
yeah.
right,
You know, so.
okay.
That's why we said we could look at it again after, you know, we had to make more than the $4,000 in repairs, so then we can relook at it or come to an agreement on, we would just invoice them for materials and time for Public Works to do any of the repairs. You know, we could figure that part out, but
Yeah, I'm fine with that if we can do it that way. I just don't want the city to be on the hook for damages because they're the ones making the money off the parking, so.
Is that $4,000 number in the agreement then? That will be back to,
yeah, that, we would reference that in the amendments we have to make to the agreement, yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, I was gonna say, why not give them the money back? If they wanna take the money back, we can do that, and then if we do have an issue, we could just invoice them for it in the future, but, I mean, you guys probably could make better use of that $4,000 than we could just waiting for something to happen. You know, I don't know if that's something,
you could eat up that $4,000 just reseeding a big area.
how much does it cost to reseed there, Matt? I mean, is it, that's a pretty good guesstimate on,
Mayor and Council, that's pretty hard to say. I mean, seeds, you buy a 50, 100-pound bag of seed, where we get it, we're probably spending close to 100 and 150 bucks on that bag of seed. Where we get it from, it would really depend on the extent and, you know, if dirt is needed and, you know, how bad it was. I know it gets really ruddy when you first go out of the parking lot to the south. That's usually the worst spot. It has a tendency to hold a little more water in that spot. But really depending upon, you know, if you have cars or sometimes there's camping back there and stuff like that. So it all depends on, you know, spots people are at, and, you know, to the extent, it'd be really hard to put a number on it for me.
So for that sidewalk that we were talking about, connecting the parking lots together, I think that was a couple of meetings ago. Was that getting paid for by the city or by the BMX?
BMX.
The BMX, okay,
we were doing the plowing on it, I think, right?
okay.
Do you spend more time, if these events didn't happen at all, would you spend the same amount of time in that area? Or do you spend a little bit more time because of these events?
That's because of these events. You're talking about repairs?
Well, or just maintenance or looking it over or whatever you do, whatever your job includes over there.
There's not more time spent in these there because of these events, if you're asking that. We don't, it's only if there is damages to the wet spots. Other than that, it's just, for us, it's just mowing grass and picking up trash. It's just part of the park, so it's nothing, you know, it doesn't mean that we do anything different for them. We always try to keep it as clean and nice as possible year-round, so.
I mean, I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in, but I mean, I'd be fine with giving them the money back and then maybe saying, okay, if you guys have an issue, then you need to repair it yourselves, which I'm sure would be cheaper than having Public Works do it, and, you know, I mean, then you can keep that money, and we could say maybe if it's not repaired in 30 days or something like that, after a written notice, then, you know, the city will do it, or if you prefer that the city does it, then we'd invoice you for it, or, I don't know, I'm just thinking having that money sitting there, if we've only used it one time for a minor repair in the last 4 years, or, well, 5 years, I guess it's been, it's kind of a waste to just let it sit there and not use it for something.
Cheap insurance policy.
We're okay with either way, if you kept the money or if we get it back. You know, as it states now, it has to be rehashed every 2 years, I believe it is. So the original idea is just to let you guys keep that, and when that gets exhausted, you know, either we revisit it every 2 years, or if that gets exhausted, we'll revisit it sooner, and then either do an invoice, or maybe we do an escrow for the year, or something. Okay. But either way is good with us.
Okay.
I guess I'd rather see it go back to them, and then it's probably easier for Mike to get rid of that too, and then you just bill them if they need to do work.
Yeah, so the funds are not segregated, right? So they go into the general fund as revenues, and it sits in there. And so we could return the money or not return the money. From the finance department perspective, doing these tickets is a huge amount of work, a very, very surprisingly large amount of work. me and my staff would be quite happy to not have to
Right.
procure those tickets, keep track of them, because in the finance department, you have to treat every one of those pre-numbered tickets as though it's actual cash. They gotta be locked up, they gotta be accounted for, you have to count out every single one, and Tim has had to do this with us. You gotta count out every single one before you start, every single one when you finish, and then you really ought to have a double count, right? I count it, he counts it, we double check each other's counts. Sign paperwork agreeing to that, because it is treated as cash. If the ticket is gone, whether it was used or not, it is now money owed to the city. And that's a lot of work. To my mind, I think that if we don't have a big problem with, repairing turf, I think there are a lot of mechanisms to be able to make that work. One simple one is in perpetuity, they've always got an event coming up that requires a special event permit. If they haven't repaired the turf from the last time, there's nothing that compels the council to approve the next special event permit, and they know that. And I don't think that they're the kind of people that are looking to dodge their responsibilities anyway. I mean, they're volunteers trying to do a good thing in the city, so I'm okay with us ending this.
Yeah, and then
I think it's
then we don't
better.
have to look at it every 2 years.
I think it's better for everybody. I think everybody saves a bunch of time. These volunteers don't want to come down to City Hall and sit with me for an hour counting through these tickets either, so.
We'd still probably want to look at it every 2 years or every 3 years.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we could look at it every time we have a special event permit, we can look at it, you know. I
Right,
mean,
but I mean, just to review how things have been going, get input from Matt if there's been any issues. Just like any other special, tattoo shop come in and get their license every year, or 2 years, or 3 years.
That's a fair compromise.
They are utilizing city property
What do you mean?
during the big events, so.
Just,
Give them the $4,000
Give 'em the
back and then
$4,000
just
back
review it every 2 or 3
every
years.
2 years, just to make sure everything's going good.
Make sure their needs are being met and our needs are being met.
And if something goes wrong, then we bill them for it if they want us to fix it.
Otherwise, they fix it themselves.
Otherwise, yeah, yep.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
I mean, they got enough volunteers there from all sorts of trades that,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if
It's
Matt,
nothing for
if
them
Matt doesn't
to-
have to send his guys over there to do it,
I,
that would be less
I
on
would,
your plate
yeah, I
too.
would
so.
doubt that it would come. You guys have volunteers from all sorts of areas that are. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
And like Luke said, the $4,000's off the books and your hands
No
are
more
freed up,
tickets.
less work.
yeah, and then Jordan will have to draft this kind of stuff up as an amendment to the agreement and come back to the council, May 2nd. So we'll queue it up for that.
How many years do you want to go out for?
We could stick with the 2 years that are in there, I guess, to review
2
it.
years?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good to me. Moving on to E2, City Council Agenda Request from Minnesota Equipment.
Good evening, committee. Minnesota Equipment was planning on coming, so I'm not sure what happened. I might have gotten a message. I haven't been in my office all afternoon, so. But the request is they are considering expanding their open sales lot by purchasing the adjacent parcel through farm implement and accessory and open sales. They're allowed in the conditional use for the B2 General Business District, but it is not a permitted use in the Highway 65 Overlay District. This is something that they've dealt with before and are really hoping they have the opportunity to expand their open sales lot. Basically, in the memo, you'll see that I included the dimensional or the flexibility rules for the Highway 65 Overlay District. So the council does have the ability to have flexibility and permit things that aren't permitted in the overlay district if it's in the best interest of the city. I guess this is just something I'd like you to consider from a staff's perspective. I think it's good to be business friendly. And since they're an existing business and it's not immediately on Highway 65, I don't have a problem with this, but.
They came here from somewhere else, so I'd like to keep them.
I guess I have a question. So if they buy that lot and we allow them to do that, what's the tax revenue gonna be for us on that? Is there gonna be any additional tax revenue?
Unless they build a building, there won't be additional
Then
tax
I'm
revenue.
against it then. You have a,
It's the same as what it is now.
well, yeah, what it is now, but eventually that's
It's
gonna get
been
sold.
Zero, well, minimal for how many years that's been empty? When was the last time
A
that
long
built,
time. That, it's an empty lot,
15
so.
plus years since
yeah.
that?
But it will sell eventually. I'd rather see a business there that actually makes us tax revenue in addition to, I mean, they have a lot of space there now if you look. I guess, I just see it as
I really-
losing.
I was just there yesterday for parts and they're crammed,
It's pretty
They are
packed.
jammed in there,
back and the front, they're jam-packed.
yes.
I mean, I agree with you, Luke, that I'd like to see something else go there, I mean, from a city perspective, but I don't, I mean, I've been a really a opponent of the 65 overlay for a long, long time, and, you know, just because we want to see tax revenue there, I don't want to prevent that seller, he's got property rights, the guy that owns that property, if he's got a buyer, I want to make sure that he's got the right to sell it to whoever he wants. And Minnesota Equipment, if they're gonna buy it, I'd like to see them use it for whatever they want to use it for, and I don't want to stand in their way of growing their business.
I don't wanna see them leave town
and,
for
yeah,
a
right.
bigger lot, somewhere in East Bethel or
Right,
something like that.
right.
So,
So, I mean, I definitely would be in favor of allowing it to move forward.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, I'm against it, but just because, I mean,
Right.
taxes keep
I
going
get
up
it.
and up and
I
up,
get
and we
it.
gotta,
I mean, is it really gonna interfere with the amount of lots we have to build on for businesses?
We do have a lot of commercial lots available directly on 65, or commercial land. So I would say if, I agree with you, Luke, that in most cases, I really do feel that it's in our best interest to always get a building, and obviously I asked him that question first. But in this case, with it, you know, probably being a hindrance for them staying in that location, and the amount of commercial land we have available directly on 65, I think this is an okay decision to make, but.
and with that lot, if they
It's a
ever
good-
wanted to
good
add on out
business
the back to make their shop bigger,
Right, which they may
they
do in the
can't
future.
now,
Right,
but maybe with additional lot, they would be able to.
they need a bigger shop there, actually. That place is full all the time.
And then there's a lot of them buildings over there that are empty right now.
So at this point, I just need direction that we can move forward with a conditional use permit and the flexibility for this, and we'll,
Yeah, I'd say you got
move
3 to 1?
thank you.
All right. E3, utility manager position.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the matrix for hiring a position in Public Works is based upon many criteria. It includes population, increase of services and infrastructure, implementation of new technology to meet higher standards and permit requirements, such as eventually what will be coming our way, which will be a mechanical wastewater plant and expansions to the water distribution system, longevity of current staff and retirement of current staff, allowing for crossover and training for a critical system. Currently, what we have in Public Works is 1 Public Services Director, a foreman, 6 technicians, and a mechanic, 3 seasonals, and 1 intern. The last position added to Public Works was a maintenance technician position in 2018, and before that was 2006, so quite a while before. The unique configuration of our Public Works Department has allowed us to maximize our staff's abilities and efficiencies. Based upon the growth of the city through new homes and increased population, about 2,000 people in the last 5 years, the time has come to add a specialized full-time position and member to our team in the areas of utilities within the Public Works. As the city has grown, so has the need to increase our staffing to have a person be responsible for overseeing the daily operations, maintenance, and repair projects, state and permit requirements, and functions primarily of the Water and Wastewater Department. Just for context, over the last 5 years, we've added about 12,000 new feet of water main, a little over 12,000 of sewer main. We've had over 401 permits pulled for new homes. We've had an increase of 29 million gallons of wastewater treated and 36 million gallons of water treated. So in the 2022 budget that was approved last December, it included a full-time position of a utility manager. The utility manager's primary responsibilities will be to oversee the critical infrastructure of water and wastewater treatment areas, as well as oversee all utility functions and stormwater maintenance of the city of Isani. This position would also serve as the role as a second in command to the Public Services Department. If you have any questions, we do have included is the points and grade and the salary, as well as the position job description. The tentative going forward, if this is approved, will be to go to council with this job description, as all new job descriptions do need to be approved by council. And then we would post for the position, accept applications through June 2nd, tentatively interview, and then hopefully make a hire approximately the end of June.
So will this position include plowing when needed? Or will this person?
No, this position will not, because the union has plowing as a job within the union, and this would not be a union position.
That was one of my questions, was I wanted to make sure that it was not gonna be a union position. I know that we had talked about that in the past, and, so that's a good thing.
Why is it a good thing?
I don't know.
We have a
I don't-
little, we have a little bit more power.
Yeah, I think it's just a little more flexibility to utilize that, so.
And I'm sure it costs a lot less per hour in the long run.
Not really.
Is the one line in that, in the, job description, like, it's kind of a duplicate line? I couldn't tell if it was meant to be that way or not. It's not a big thing, but it was like, directs daily inspections of wastewater plant and pond system, and then it was, and then oversees and/or conducts daily inspections of this kind of the same description.
One of them would be probably overseeing, because we still do have our technicians that do assist in water, wastewater. They are licensed
Right.
operators and will continue
Okay.
to be so. So
Okay.
they will be overseeing those people, as well as doing doing the inspections themselves when
Okay.
needed.
All right. All right, that sounds good. I mean, I kind of thought that's what it was going with, but it was,
Matt, is there enough there for that person to do all day with just the utility management? Or could they do other things as well, like if you need a hand with something else? I mean,
Yeah, look at the job description. Did you read it?
I can give you a couple examples, Luke, of just some things that happened the last couple of weeks at the Public Works Department that this person would probably have caught, would be his job to catch some of these things. We took in close to 1 million gallons of water through a manhole that was flooding because of the recent thaws that we had. That caused a whole mecca of things that happened at the wastewater plant that we got under control. Yesterday, we had the SCADA go down, so I had my on-call person was dealing with total control to get that back. I had separate issues that I had my guys talking to total control about this person would be that point of contact for total control, so that I don't have one person over here dealing with this, one over here dealing with this, one over here dealing with this. This person is the point of contact. That way he knows what's going on and things don't get, oh, I forgot to call back or something like that, or I'm still waiting for an answer. This person would be that person. Today we had a pump go down or we had a pump getting replaced at the wastewater plant. And they were having some problems getting that pump to start. So where my one public works guy spent an hour up there trying to get this pump started, this person, that took away from his job, and we are really busy. So now it took away from him where this person would be that point of contact. What's going on? Those are 3 examples that are just recently. This person would also oversee repairs that are done at the wastewater plant so that repairs are done correctly. Those are just some recent examples that I can give you for the last couple weeks that have taken place down there.
sure.
and I actually I've toured the facility, and I think you have
Yep,
too, but I
yep.
went around with the on-call person here, what was it, last week, Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that?
I think it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, I mean, I think right now, it's part of a day, every day at least, right now. And, I mean, there's always something that seems to come up. I mean, even when we were there, it was, just one of the testing machines was giving us issues, and we had to try to recalibrate it. I mean, there's always issues, and it's, so, I mean, I think it's maybe not a full-time, like, gonna be there at the wastewater and freshwater treatment plants all day long, but, I mean, like you said, there's, lots of other things in this job description that they're gonna help you out with that'll free you up, and you guys are working on, the water meter installs right now, too. I mean, you guys are busy as could be this year, so.
He's got GIS in the job description as well.
Yep, so
A
all
lot of
the,
cities this size have a full-time or part-time GIS worker, just GIS.
So currently, we don't have anyone, and we pay contracted services through Bolton and Mink for GIS. And same with also, I'll add with other projects, we end up contracting with Bolton and Mink, why they're fantastic at what they do, it costs us a lot of money to contract with them for things like even troubleshooting. And we do believe when we have somebody in there every day, we will be saving money by not utilizing their services as much, because we'll have more of a pulse on exactly what's going on every day if we're having issues like at our water plant, and we're seeing trends that are getting out of whack and things like that. That I do think that it's going to be beneficial for the city overall.
I guess one other question that I had is, where does this come from? I mean, is it just, you know, the general budget of Public Works, or does it come from sewer and water that's covering the cost of this employee, or?
So it's sewer and water mainly, but they also are going to be in charge of stormwater management, and so stormwater does pay for some as well. But it is all 100% utility funded.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes it easier to justify too, and so, I mean, just like police and fire, I mean, there's, you know, and I know we wanted to dig into hiring on the police department, which, I mean, and we want to definitely, you know, do our research, and we've done that with this too, and, you know, I think, you know, we don't want to be, you know, just hire people just for the sake of hiring people, but, you know, there's certain things, roads, I mean, water and public safety that we have to do really, really well, and I think this is a big part of making sure that we're doing that, so. Any other thoughts?
I'm good with it.
Thank you. This will be added to the consent agenda on May 2nd.
What's the yearly salary?
The hourly wage is
36 something to start an hour.
$38.06 is the starting wage.
Was it and will they have to start on step one in this case, or is it,
It all depends on
right, because we still can do lateral hiring and stuff for
It
this
is
as well?
possible,
Okay.
yes.
So
that
it
we
could
will bring
be as
someone
high
in
as,
higher.
was it 48, I think, was the max?
47.74.
Okay. So when we do that, I mean, I suppose it depends on the candidate pool that we get, but I mean, I guess I'd like to see us hire more on the lower side. I mean, I think it's, you know, but of course you know that already, so.
I'd like to hire someone that's qualified for the job.
Well, I think that's true
That's the
too,
main
but,
thing.
but right now, I mean, we have a platoon of people doing it, so I mean, I think if we have somebody that's still maybe a little bit green, that's still gonna be better than what we have now, and it's gonna be, you know, they can learn with us as we grow too, so. So not unqualified, but not overqualified. All right, moving on to E4, the green steps. So this is one of mine, so I'll just go ahead and run with that, but, you know, kind of in conversations that I've had with staff and, you know, the Green Step program, I don't know if you guys know a whole lot about it. I don't really know a ton about it, but just from those conversations I've had, it's, you know, basically when we first started doing it, it was using LED bulbs, or, you know, was kind of the things that nowadays we do anyway because they're more efficient, or they're, you know, they're cost-wise, they just make more sense, you know, and so I know there's a lot of reporting. I forget exactly how much time you said, Josie, that we spend on it, but
We actually just completed the report a few weeks ago, and it took about 2 hours total of staff time.
2 hours
So,
of staff time? Okay.
Yep.
I mean, you know, 2 hours isn't too bad, but I think Jim, when I was out there the other day, he was mentioning something about having to do some things out there with reporting, and so, I mean, that's just staff time in here, right? But, I mean, what do we do from the Public Works perspective as far as staff time on reporting with that?
He was gathering, how much wastewater, I believe went through the system, so he had to add up the months. It didn't take him very long at
Not
all,
too
It
long,
was just
okay.
adding up flows for that month.
Okay.
Or that year, I should say, each month, for the
Okay.
grand total.
Most of the data that we collect is data that we already have on the back end from our MS4 reporting. So a lot of it we just
Okay.
have to gather anyway.
Okay. And I know, I thought when we talked, we thought it was maybe a couple of days of time, but that was just more of a guess at that time, I guess. that we-
It took about 2 hours this year
Okay.
for
All right, well, that's not too
total,
bad, but,
including Matt's guys' times too. So
Mhm.
So what does that do for the city, other than having the green step thing on our sign
I
coming in?
I think over the years, it helps us gauge on how energy efficient we are. It does give us charts and a lot of information showing how much more energy efficient we become. And it was interesting seeing the difference between the old liquor store and the new liquor store, and it was a huge difference.
Okay.
And I think that's what really made a lot of our numbers go down this year compared to last year. So I think overall, it helps us just gauge our energy usage, which is a great thing. I think it's saving us money, or showing how we're saving it anyway.
And I think you would do those things anyway, is my point, you know, I mean, are we just virtue signaling and spending a couple hours every, you know, I mean, I don't wanna be a place that just virtue signals for the sake of, just so we
It
can.
also shows the public and people moving here that we're conscientious about our energy.
Right, so we're
Correct.
virtue signaling, yeah.
Yeah, if it's on, 2 hours is say $100 in labor, you know, it's probably worth it just to have, I mean, they get the data, and then we have it on their sign too coming in. I mean, I remember when I first saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting, that must be a good thing, right? So I think people do see it and notice it. I mean,
See, I look
For-
at it and I think it's a bad thing.
okay,
I think it's a waste of time.
sure.
But, I mean, there's some other things too that, you know, I mean, you can get into sustainable goals of the UN and, you know, that it's more of a equity type program now than it used to be, and so you think that too, George? Yeah,
It's something that they had to achieve and get that signed for, so
How much time
why
and
take it away?
money a year do you have to spend on it? I just heard a couple of hours, but is that?
That's
for-
about it, because we have to gather so much data for MS4, which requires us to follow a lot of the things that Green Steps requires anyway, and for other programs within the city, so.
and the MS4 is state mandated, so we don't have a choice on that. So,
Right.
I mean, we're already doing a lot of the things, but I mean, if we don't have to spend a few hours a year doing reporting, and we're not a part of something that's, you know, not in line with the goals that we have, I mean, I think it's something I don't want to be
I
part of.
also know that
Was
we,
One of my
It-
goals when we first implemented it, so.
it does help
Don't
us.
say we when you say
Yes.
goals.
It does help us have opportunities for more funding. For instance, with electric vehicles becoming more popular, there's more possibilities for us getting better funding because we can prove that we have been more energy efficient over the years, and it's one of our goals. So that will help us with that kind of infrastructure, if that becomes where we're headed, as well as other opportunities like that. I think it also is a good avenue for information, so we learn a lot about what programs are at the state level that we can tap into.
I've seen some of the info on the grants and stuff like that, that it looks like there's so many requirements with them that by the time you end up spending all the money and then getting the grant money back, you end up losing money, you know, so it's, so I've seen the argument for that, but it didn't seem like it was.
Mayor, if I
a
may,
great
one thing
argument.
I'd like to add is back when we started that program, it did take a considerable amount of time. As Ms. Hilsheim mentioned, it has morphed over time to not be so much because we already reached that level. One thing would be is maybe to reevaluate the program if they add additional steps to achieve. We're already at the top step, so I think that that is why it doesn't take as much time, because it's just plugging in numbers that we already have. But back when this started, I thought it was an incredible amount of time because I did most of it. But I think that now that we've already achieved that, it doesn't add too much. If they are to add step 6 and 7, I think it maybe should be looked at to see, what are those matrix include of what we have to do.
I would agree with that.
Unfortunately, yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with it too, but I was totally against it when the city first started it, because I knew the considerable amount of time it took to achieve all those steps.
It was fascinating information, though. I mean, we've never had to do a canopy study. Nothing required us to know what kind of trees were in the city. We had to do it for part of this program. I think that's cool information that staff was able to gain from the program, what need would we have had to collect that data? But it's good data to have as we're looking at different things, like maybe it's emerald ash borer. Like, it's important to know where we have ash trees. We did it because of this program. So there's interesting things that we've done that way through it.
And we're already good for the year.
I mean, if we're spending roughly $100
Just
a year.
revisit it next
yeah.
year if we need to. I mean, we're already good for the year.
2 hours a year.
Yeah, $100 a year, it's
Unless
roughly,
something
Spend more
changes by
money
next
on
year.
something
flowered.
silly. Mm-hmm,
They spend more money on the flowered paper towels in the men's room
mm-hmm.
in a year than they do on the Green Step program.
Yeah, no use of getting rid of it. It's done for the year. Just bring it up this time next year.
I was
See what
curious.
they
I
do.
was curious about that too, though, because when I saw it come up on the sign, I did wonder how much that cost too. to get that symbol on our sign, you know, as far as that program to qualify. So it is an interesting question. It's good to know.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm ready to dump it, but I've been ready to dump it ever since I saw it, ever since I saw
was
it.
2 years
Ever
ago,
since I saw it come up
but
on
I
the
was-
sign, and I would say that your initial instinct, your gut feeling impression of it is probably correct. And that's where I'm coming from more than anything probably, is that when I saw that go up, I thought, you know what, that's stupid. And really, that's where I'm still at on it. So I think it's just a waste of time. I think it's virtue signaling. I think it's unnecessary, and I don't like wasting time, and I don't like unnecessary things, so. And I'd like to replace those signs with those drive like your kids live here signs.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with it, but.
I think to perhaps conclude this on this topic would be to put it to city council for a vote. We do have a resolution out there that does say that it is a city participation program. That is why staff does participate in it. So my recommendation would be to add it to a council agenda for a vote if you're considering non-participation, to remove that resolution.
Sounds good to me.
I'm for keeping it.
I'm for keeping
Got
it
too
too,
much
honestly.
invested in it to
You don't even want to vote on it?
dump it for
we
2
can.
hours of work a
Let's
year.
just revisit it in a year since it's already done, and I'm just basically aren't spending any more time on it.
Yeah.
Residents
we can
like
have a
it,
vote if
and
you
that's what
want.
we're-
have
I'm
a
with
vote?
you
At
on.
city council, yeah.
the-
Well, Luke's okay with the vote.
I'm
You wanna,
fine.
you wanna have a vote on it at city council? I mean, not tonight, but next city, on May 2nd?
We could add it to May 2nd.
I'd be okay with that.
I just think it's potentially valuable for grants too. Like, I know if I was reading a grant application and I saw a program on there that sounded like it was a good thing, it might help if I was evaluating a grant, you know? So, I mean, for the little cost it is,
Yeah, I mean.
but
I
it
don't
is kind of virtue signaling.
know. Yeah, all
But
right.
Just don't look at the sign if that's all you don't like about it.
What do you say? It's 2-2 on bringing it to council?
I don't think we'll get the votes to get rid of it, even if,
Can I break a tie in a cow meeting or no?
I mean, maybe Steve would feel
I
differently,
say
I'm not
let it
sure.
ride for a year,
What we
only
look-
because they're done for the year, they did everything they had to do. I mean, I'm totally against, I wish I would've been on council 6 years ago and stopped it right away before it got going, because they had a lot of time into it. But listening to them, they learned a lot too.
Now's your chance, George. Now's your chance to say, hey, this,
Mayor, if I may add, there is no breaking a tie. We don't need to worry about that. The mayor can add anything to the agenda, as well as a council member. If you would like to see this on a council agenda,
okay.
we can add it.
Let's move it to the council agenda for May 2nd then.
Maybe Steve will have a different opinion, so.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
All right, that sounds good. Moving on to E5, comments during live streaming discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. So last COW meeting, March 21st, staff was looked into see what other cities had for disclaimers, and thank you to Councilmember Heeman, who did provide me with some cities. What I found in doing more research and looking at those other cities, as well as more cities within the city or state of Minnesota, is that it does create it's limited, but it is creating an open forum. Even when using a disclaimer policy to limit the content, it would become of public record and subject to the data practices laws that we would have to follow. One thing that I found is that there is practically every city I looked at has a disclaimer policy of what they will allow in their Facebook comments. I did put that in the packet. You can see it's pretty lengthy. It is much more than what we currently have, which is just obscene or vulgar language, which is currently what site filters out in Facebook. By adding a disclaimer that says this is not a public forum or comments will not be included as public record, it does not waive the city's liability, says our city attorneys. There are cities that assist with collecting information if we are concerned about not being able to provide all the comments if someone was to make a data request. For example, if someone posted and created a Facebook comment, someone data requested all the comments on a particular meeting, and then someone had deleted their comment, that does not excuse the city from not being able to provide that comment as part of the data request. So that's where it gets really tricky and where this can become quite messy. The basic feature is a $500 startup charge, but then the kicker is about $350 a month to have this company, which I do know other Minnesota cities do use them for this same thing, is through Archive Social, for them to archive all comments ever posted on a city Facebook page to ensure you're not having any liability. One thing that I did find in looking at the city of Eagan, which they were helpful in providing us with more information, such as this policy that they had, was that they do put that no comments will be reviewed during the meeting. So people know that there isn't going to be dialogue, at least, and they do pin that as a comment. Now, they did say that they don't have very many people comment hardly ever on their meetings, so really it's less of an issue for them because they're not concerned about it. But they do allow comments in there, but they have this lengthy disclaimer policy. They do have a social media person, a media relations communication staff person that does review everything, and they do go through and filter out comments. We don't have a staff person dedicated to doing our social media here. Typically, it's myself or individual staff members do go through and post their own Facebook posts. Sometimes I just go through and look at comments that have been hidden, and as I shared before, Facebook sometimes hide comments, and I don't know why. There's nothing vulgar or obscene in their comment, so I'm not sure why they hide it, so I unhide them. But just looking for direction, if you think that we should add something such as a social media disclaimer policy and start reviewing the comments, or leave it as is.
So I have a bunch of questions on this. So you had said that legally it would be considered the public forum or whatever, correct? So I thought we had discussed that the YouTube would be the official city public record, and the Facebook is just it's there.
We're not able to say it's just there. If we're creating the content, it becomes the public forum,
Okay, so anything we
even
post,
if it's optional.
so anything we post on Facebook, then we could get sued for anything if there was comments on anything that we posted. So we'd have to shut off our comments on all our Facebook, and not even just the videos, on everything.
Or be filtering them.
I don't necessarily
don't-
agree with that.
I
But that's
apologize, I
what the
think I
law
said
says,
Egan, I meant
supposedly.
Edina. I apologize for that.
Okay.
Are you sure that did you hear what he just said, though? I mean, like, even if we post something for the Parks Department and we have a comment on there, that's not a public meeting comment on there.
No, that's not a public.
That's not a public forum, but we are creating the limited public forum of free speech.
Yeah.
So we have, if someone data requested the comments on his post, of a parks post, if someone data requests it, we have to provide all those comments.
It is ridiculous. That's why turning the comments off at all is ridiculous.
If that happens once in 10 years, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, how long have we been doing that for now? We've had.
I did ask
Every
for,
city's got a Facebook of some kind, don't they?
many do. I did ask if there were any case law or lawsuits out there pending. The Archive Social knew of one city, I believe, that they mentioned. Can't recall off the top of my head, but they got sued for $1,000. It wasn't much, but the attorneys also said that they don't have any of that information, that cities have been sued. So I think it's one of those things that hasn't been occurring, maybe yet, dare I say.
It's not gonna happen, and I think if this starts happening, there's gonna be legislation that'll stop it, because Facebook is just, it's a social media, it's a privately owned website, you can't, so I'm,
Anything you put out there, even on your personal page, can be used against you.
yeah, you could get sued for anything. I could get sued for walking outside right now in a baseball hat or something, you know, it could happen, like, I guess,
Just need a solid social
Yeah.
media policy for the public.
and I think this one is pretty good, the one that isn't
I'd say
attached.
if we're
Right.
looking to decrease the hours you guys spend, people worried about a couple hours a year. Right here, you wanna decrease hours spent,
this isn't
turn off the comments on it, and,
So you wanna turn off the comments on everything on Facebook then?
on the meetings.
You might as well do it on everything then, if you're worried about getting
You have to do it
sued.
on everything if you do it on the meetings. You have to do it on all, all the.
Yeah, you do. That's the Facebook. If you turn off comments on one thing, it has to be on the entire page.
Everything.
Right, that's why
Everything.
it would be two different pages.
But then you're losing viewership, and then that defeats the
not.
point of having
Why would
live.
it be losing reviews?
Because you have an established algorithm that's strong with the current city page. If you start a new page,
followers.
it takes 3 to 4 years to build up in the algorithm, despite how many likes you get. Facebook wants you down. They want you to be on there for a long time. It's just the way the algorithm works, unfortunately.
Well, and I think
wouldn't
that
see a
even if you
problem
make a
with
new,
that.
even if you make a new page,
Another page, not a new page.
well, right, but I mean, even if you
It'd
make
be
another
just
page,
strictly
you're
city
still.
council meeting page. And that's where all the live stream would be done. You can shut off comments, doesn't affect the city hall's.
No, but what they're
current
saying is that
page.
even if we
I
put
don't wanna
something
shut
on the
off
parks page or
comments.
the police department page, that we're creating a public forum and that's not allowed. That you wouldn't be able to have comments on the PD page or on the park page.
But that's.
So why make a separate page then?
We could get sued for
so you
either.
can Shut comments off on that only.
It doesn't matter though, then we'd,
Then why have it?
yeah, it's.
Just to
I
reiter-
want
just
it
to
for public
reiterate,
input, even though it
Any
hasn't been real
post,
constructive.
any comments on any posts are subject to a data request. That's what, where it comes into the comments with not the meetings part, but in any post, technically, someone could data request it, and if they knew a post existed that we did not know because the content writer of it deleted it, technically, that does open the city up for liability.
Okay, so they
Let me
can
just say,
comment.
this would be time.
So they
spent
could
on
comment a year
transparency.
later.
Efforts to be more transparent, not efforts to virtue
Or-
signal.
Or any
So
of
if you're
your
worried
staff
about the couple hours.
having to go through and proofread comments is not transparency. That's their time.
No, we're trying to find ways to be as legal as possible and be as
I
transparent as
get that,
possible.
but
There's a difference there.
I have to
the
disagree
difference
with
is you were
having
complaining
to
about 2
archive
hours a minute
everything.
ago if it's staff time.
I would just,
This is
Yes,
much
wasted,
more than 2
wasted on
hours.
virtue signaling, yes.
Can
This
we have one
is-
person
this
talk
is
at a
different.
time, please?
I'll run the meeting, but go ahead, Luke.
No, I just don't like hearing
Go ahead.
all of us. I don't have anything to say. That was just
Okay,
what I wanted
all
to say.
right.
A secondary option is something that we've seen do at Isani County. We have not dug into it because we didn't know if it was something that was of interest, but if it is, we do have the ability on our website to embed a video, similar to like what the county does, where it goes live on there. Otherwise, back the other option that we talked about before, which was YouTube for videos. And I do think, to Councilmember Heeman's comment about the archiving, I think where there's an opportunity for a business to start up, a business starts up. Now, is there a gray zone there? I think like many state statutes, it's interpreted and doesn't catch up to what technology is at. But by technicality of statute and laws that we have to abide by or should abide by as best we can.
so are all these cities breaking some kind of disclosure? Or you're saying that you have to archive all these comments? I mean, there's so many cities that are doing it, and I know they're way smaller than us, and they don't have the time or the resources. I believe it, when we start Facebook each night, we just put a disclaimer right away before the meeting starts, post it, and I believe, like Luke said, we're out of the liability, and if it ever became an issue, the state would pass legislation to do something. I don't believe there's an issue with it myself. That's just my personal belief. You did talk to the attorney the first time we discussed this, and he said what again?
He recommended not to have comments on the Facebook Live because of the public forum. And they would be able to say things that you wouldn't allow people at your meeting to say, and you have rules within city code of what you can and cannot say, the 3-minute limit, can't vulgar, can't political speak, all those different things that we have outlined, and that he thought it would be an issue having that online because you don't have any control over it.
Right.
I just feel like some people just let Facebook just rule their life. If it wasn't for Facebook, I have no idea what some of these people do. Everything's about Facebook these days, and I don't think we need to be that way. Life goes on without
You
Facebook.
wanna let it roll?
Let it roll with the disclosure.
I agree.
Maybe we have one,
Is the disclosure Councilmember Heeman's talking about is something similar to comments are not monitored during the broadcast or something like that?
Right.
That, like the pinned comment disclaimer is what you're talking about?
Right.
I mean, would it be possible to, I know when you first start a live stream, would it be possible to just have this on the screen for 15 seconds at the beginning of the live stream, the social media disclaimer policy?
This would be on our website. We would post it to our website.
We can link it too.
My
So
only
she could put a
concern,
comment in a link.
I don't have any concern with adding a pinned comment that says that we don't monitor the comments during the meetings or something like that. But I do have a concern, even though I do like this policy that Edina has and other cities have, my concern with it is if we put a policy and adopt a policy such as this, it looks intensive for time for staff to make sure that no one's, I mean, they have things in here, no political campaigns or candidates, information that could compromise safety and security. I mean, that's good things, I think, but I think that's going to be difficult for staff to always be watching Facebook, as I'll be honest, staff throws things up as best we can with the time we have, and then we do our rest of our job. We don't watch our Facebook feed. We do, if there's a message that pops up, it comes up, I'll see that there's a little message waiting. If someone's looking for information, I respond back to them. But otherwise, I don't have Facebook sitting up on the computer to watch it daily.
Better things to do.
I mean, so our attorney is okay with us taking a risk to have it on all the other Facebook stuff that we have, but he's not okay with us having it on the public meeting?
Well, to be fair, I asked specifically on Facebook Live.
Okay.
The attorney
But
probably
and
doesn't
he
know.
does recommend a policy such as this. He does.
If we're gonna
I
do
just think some of those larger cities have a marketing, communication, and/or social media type person. And we could do the best we could.
Is there anything out in that you could X out and still be, or can you just be a little more vague with it and still accomplish the same goal?
I did have a question about one thing on there, if that's okay. The political statements that endorse or oppose political campaigns or candidates, I mean, is that just for proposed candidates, or is that for people in the position? Because, I mean, people watching could say something about one of the council members. Is that allowed? Because I
don't
would
know if
rather
it's
have
about-
that
If it's
allowed.
not, like, being harmful towards that council member, I think that it's more, I think that such and such council member should run for mayor next. I think it's things like that.
So
Or,
what's wrong with that?
well, this policy doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
Our city code also doesn't allow it for people to come
Not
make
even allowed
political
on city
campaigns
property.
here.
Okay.
We are non-political.
There was a meeting last year where we actually had 2 candidates for county commission come in and
we
they
were-
should have never been allowed to speak, you know,
And we
so-
caught it just after they spoke, and the mayor at the time, Jeff Johnson, made a disclaimer, because I apologize that I didn't know until we read it in city code, because I thought, I don't know if they can do that, and then they couldn't by our city code.
What if we just wing it and say, YouTube is our official video, Facebook is not considered an official meeting, and comments are not archived but are archived on Facebook. So, because they're archived there already, so.
They're not
why-
archived there, because people can delete their comments.
And I have a question about that. So you're telling me if I make a comment and then I choose to delete the comment, that's not an equal, if that's the forum that we're on and having this public discussion, wouldn't my option to delete the comment also be just as much of my right to make the comment in the first
Yes.
place, right?
Yep, you do have the right to write the speech or take it away, but the city's obligation under the state law is that any comments made, because it hasn't caught up with technology, we have to obtain it. Just like if a member of the public passes out anything, Ms. Strand, as our city clerk, has to retain that, and sometimes it's 10 years, that piece of paper that got passed out, because someone could data request it, and we're required by retention laws to keep it, to pass it back out, because it was made on a public forum.
And I will say as well, Facebook is legally obligated to keep history of every single comment that's ever been made on Facebook. So if there's like a murder investigation or any sort of criminal activity, Facebook is required to keep comments and keep everything, because there have been people that have been convicted of things with Facebook, old deleted Facebook comments as proof of something. So Facebook does have that in all their servers. So if we were ever in a serious pickle, you could legally get that information because they're legally obligated to keep it.
I think what would happen, and I mean, you're familiar with data requests forms. It's a form, someone requests information. We provide what we can at the best of our knowledge at that time. and we try to give them everything we can with what they request. If they made a request about comments, we would provide them with what we have, and we said that is all. It's up to them to take that legally a step further, but we would do the best that we could.
I don't know how anybody could win their day in court saying Facebook is an official public meeting, because we use YouTube, and then we also have our own records that we officially use to record each meeting. I just have a hard time believing they could ever.
And I think,
ever
and you
win
could,
that.
if we want to really try to cover ourselves too, we could say after every meeting is over, then we copy and paste the comments. And that, so at least for the very, if they made it during the meeting or they deleted it during the meeting, we won't catch that. But at least for the public meetings, we would have an actual document that we could.
And you got a good point, because only, according to Josie, the comments made during the meeting. So even the next morning, if you just pull it up on your laptop, open up the comments, print them out, done, 10 minutes.
Well, she was
print
making
'em
the
out, put 'em
argument
in a
that no matter
file
what it is,
somewhere.
it's, even if, well, she was making the argument that no matter what type of it could be a post from the Public Works or from PD or from,
Oh, yeah.
it could be any of that we're supposed to really save. But I think if we're making a good faith effort to say, okay, after the meeting, we're gonna copy and paste these and save them, I mean, how can you argue that we're doing the best we can? So I think if we've only had one case where that's been an issue, I think George and Luke, I mean, you guys are right, let's just roll with it.
And-
But what do we want to have for a disclaimer there, though? So, I mean, do we want to leave that a little bit more vague, so it doesn't require you guys to, have to babysit that thing all the time, or?
Yeah, and
What-
I'd like to know how much time is spent on a weekly basis on copying and pasting and trying to file all that stuff.
Yeah, we don't do any of that currently.
So, I think it'd be interesting to know how much time is wasted on Facebook.
It's not wasted. If you, anytime we talk about this, there's comments that say keep the comments. There's people that are listening.
I think
And
it's wasted time.
you
Just
think-
like
yeah,
he thinks
correct.
a green sign is a waste of time.
Okay,
Okay?
that's fine. But it's not, just say that,
Facebook is not your life. It's not
No.
the city's
I
life.
agree 100%,
It
but it's
is
one of the few forums
A
out there.
social media platform. It does not deter how the city operates and serves its residents. And it shouldn't ever come in the way and take all this manpower on a social media platform.
okay, well, Illuminate is saying,
That's
I
my
saying it'd be
opinion.
dead without social media. There's things that we do that would be dead without using social media. It is beneficial, but I get what you're saying because it is a little bit different. It is time, but everything we do is time as a city.
I mean, I hate Facebook, but there's a place
value.
for it, there's a value to it, and that's just the way things are done in today's society,
can
and it's
keep
the
it
best
simple.
way to be
Right.
transparent and open
we
with the
can.
public, I think, so.
The page they have right now, it was simple when they started it.
Yeah.
The liquor store page is simple, no comments. Easy.
I think originally when it was
Minimal hours
intended was
spent.
to get information out, and
Yep.
we always have the ability for
That's-
residents to reach out, phone, email, we have a general mailbox. Well,
And that's
we do
really
have
all
fax
I
if
think we
anybody's
should be doing.
faxing, but come to public comment. I think it was a way to just get information out, to help share information was how it started.
All right, well, we only got a few minutes here, and then we'll have to recess this and pick it up after the council meeting tonight, but do you guys want to try to wrap this up, or we want to?
Yeah.
What do we think about the disclaimer? I mean, is that,
I mean, I think do you say Edina or someone sent you a disclaimer that they post on theirs?
This is exactly theirs, Edina's.
Okay, I
Yeah.
mean,
you want to
And-
maybe just take a look at that, and you guys kind of put one together that you could live with a little bit easier, and that you think still would accomplish the same goal, and then bring that to the council meeting on the 2nd?
Yeah, I think so.
Then we can
And I
adjust it from there.
just as long as council is aware that staff will do the best to moderate and look at comments to ensure that we are abiding by this policy, but without having a staff person dedicated to doing this as their job, I will just say that we will do the best we can, but I'm not going to look at Facebook all day long.
and Facebook does automatically do the first two. Stuff that has too much obscene language or harmful comments, those are automatically hidden.
Then do we like the idea about copying and pasting the comments just after the meetings? We're not talking about every single Facebook post that we put out, but I mean, just the meeting.
I can't see how any comments could be of any meaning unless they were made during the meeting.
Especially because we're not looking at them during the
Because that'd be
meeting.
like somebody walking in here after the meeting and talking to an empty room.
Yeah, I think
It's-
if we do that, I think we're making a good effort to,
Yeah.
to save them and archive them as best we can, you know, I mean, I think that's.
What's
that's
it take, a
reasonable to
minute?
me. Yeah, right, so.
We will do that, and
Okay.
we will track our time as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, so we'll recess the committee of the whole meeting until after the council meeting or evening, or after, no, yeah. After the
It will
council
likely
meeting.
be after the council meeting, as I think planning commission will go the full hour.
Okay. Sure. Do I have a motion to adjourn, though, first?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heaven. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We are